Sudan's army said it has recaptured the presidential palace in the capital Khartoum from the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces on Friday after a fierce battle. Army spokesman Nabil Abdallah, in a statement broadcast on state television, explained that the armed forces completely destroyed the enemy's fighters and equipment and seized large quantities of equipment and weapons. Abdallah vowed the army would continue to progress on all fronts until victory is complete and every inch of the country is purged of the militia and its supporters. Paramilitary forces occupied the palace in April 2023 when war broke out between the RSF and the army. Central Khartoum, where the presidential palace stands alongside the ministries and the capital's business district, has been the site of fierce battles in recent months. Back home in Nigeria, the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, has formally apologized to the Federal High Court Justice Binta Nyako and Adegboyega Awomolo, a senior advocate of Nigeria, over his misconduct at the last proceedings of his trial on terrorism charges. He pleaded passionately for forgiveness and promised to be of good conduct throughout the duration of his trial. Kanu's apology was contained in a lengthy prepared speech delivered by his lead counsel and former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Kanu Agabi. In the emotion-laden speech, Kanu specifically begged Justice Nyako and Awomolo to forgive and forget his outbursts and attacks against them in open court. Meanwhile, Nnamdi Kanu has pleaded not guilty to a 7-count charge bordering on terrorism and treasonable felony. He was arraigned today before a federal high court judge in Abuja, Justice James Omotosho. Kanu's trial started afresh after the recusal of Justice Binta Nyako, the former presiding judge. Initially overseen by Justice Nyako, the case was reassigned to Justice Omotosho after Kanu and his lawyer Ejimaka publicly called for a change in judicial oversight. The Supreme Court has nullified the judgment of the Court of Appeal and the Federal High Court, which sacked Samuel Anyanwu as National Secretary of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. VOP News gathered that the 5-member panel of the Apex Court today held that the issue of who is the National Secretary of the PDP borders on the internal affairs of a political party, which is not justiciable. Justice Jamilu Tucker, who delivered the lead judgment of the Supreme Court, consequently struck out the judgment of the trial court delivered in October last year and also set aside the majority judgment of the Court of Appeal, which had in December affirmed the sack of Anyanwu as PDP's national secretary. Justice Tucker subsequently affirmed the minority judgment of the appellate court delivered by Justice Ekanem, which had nullified the judgment of the trial court on account of a lack of jurisdiction. Besides, the Apex Court held that the plaintiff, Aniago Emmanuel, who initiated the suit at the trial court, lacked the necessary legal backing to do so, since he did not show how he was affected by who is the national secretary of the PDP. The electorate in Rivers State have dragged President Bola Tinubu to court over the removal of the elected governor of the state, Sim Fubara, the deputy governor, and the entire members of the State House of Assembly. In the suit filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja on March 20, the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Speaker of the House of Reps, the National Assembly of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Attorney General of the Federation are listed as second to fifth defendants. The suit was filed on behalf of the electorate by lawyer Daniel Wariboko, the sole plaintiff. He's suing for himself and other registered voters in Rivers State. In the suit, which commenced through an originating summons, he wants the courts to determine whether under Section 305 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, a dispute between a governor and a State House of Assembly is grounds for declaring a state of emergency. Other reliefs the plaintiffs sought for determination of the court include whether by the provisions of Section 305 of the Constitution, the first defendant, that is the President, has the power to suspend a democratically elected executive and legislative arm of the government of the state of the Federation. In the event that the answer to the 6 formulated questions are in the affirmative, the plaintiff wants the court to declare that the declaration by the President of a state of emergency in Rivers State on the 18th of March 2025 is unconstitutional, null, and void. A high court in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State on Thursday granted bail to Ignatius Uduk, a Nigerian professor who was jailed for 3 years for election fraud. Mr. Uduk, a professor of human kinetics at the University of Uyo, was prosecuted by the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) on 3 charges: announcement of false election results, publication of false results, and perjury during the 2019 general elections in Essien, Udim State constituency, where he served as the returning officer. The professor was INEC's collation and returning officer for Essien Udim State constituency in the 2019 general elections, where he falsified election results to the advantage of the All Progressives Congress APC candidate Nse Ntwen. The defense counsel, George Ezugu, had told reporters shortly after the sentencing that he would study the judgment before taking the next step to appeal against the judgment. Mr. Uduk appeared in court for his conviction and sentencing after his earlier bail was revoked and a fresh bench warrant issued against him. He was brought to the court in a wheelchair. The Federal High Court in Lokoja has granted an interim injunction restraining the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) from receiving petitions for the purpose of initiating a recall process against Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. The push to recall the suspended senator intensified on Thursday, with more groups in Kogi Central throwing their weight behind the process. However, a group of Ebira indigents refuted the claim that the recall process was being sponsored and influenced with money by Senator Natasha's political opponent. Nevertheless, the court, which gave the order on Thursday, also restricted INEC staff, agents, privies, or signs from accepting or acting on any petition containing fictitious signatures of purported members of the Kogi Central Senatorial District and from conducting any referendum pending determination of the motion on notice to the same effect. The court, according to the other paper made available to journalists today, granted the application following an ex parte application for an interim injunction supported by an affidavit of extreme urgency. You are currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a short break and return with more stories and the news analysis segment. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Now joining me to discuss issues on the news, I have Mr. Ola Emmanuel. He's a political, social and national affairs analyst. Good afternoon and thank you for joining me today.
Hello, can you hear me? Your
yes,
line is...
I can hear you, Mr. Ola Emmanuel. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Thank you so much. So today in court, Nnamdi Kanu tendered an apology over his, will I say, outburst or misconduct in the court towards Justice Binta Anyako and also towards another lawyer. Long and short, I just want to know, what is your assessment? How do you see this? Do you see this as him eating the humble pie that's coming down, bringing just being humble and trying to show that, oh, this whole trial has not really affected his mental health to the extent where he would be vituperating at justices of the courts just like that?
All right, thank you, Chema. On the issues of his tendering an apology to Justice Binta Anyako and the other SAN, even his prosecutor was equally shouted at in that court hearing. The point here is that we have not gotten any medical report to attest to the fact that they have any mental issues. But if anybody has any emotional pressure, certainly outburst is inevitable. But if you are seeing what he has done in the last court hearing, that he knew too well that my approach to this issue is not the best of it, and he tenders an apology, it is in order. The fact remains is that we don't have all sides of the law to ourselves. I want to believe that his legal counsel and team must have been encourage him or make him know the other side that they are taking to speaking to the justice. It is a wrong thing that when a court session is on, that either the plaintiff or suspect will begin to speak alongside when you are not giving the order. if you agree with me that the court is the most orderly place when things are being conducted. So he showing his outburst that day is completely out of order. But if you are saying that it was wrong and he has tendered an apology to that, it should be accepted. I just pray that Justice Binta accept the apology and they move on.
All right. You know, he has been assigned a new judge, Justice James Omotosho, after Justice Binta Nyako was recused, even though the case file was returned to her. He has denied the terrorism accusations by the Nigerian government against him, rejecting all the 7 count of terrorism charge that has been laid against him. Way back in 2021, he also denied these charges, but his trial has lingered up until now. He's not even in a custodial center or in the prison. He is in the custody of the DSS. Is it time to actually let him go? We know that a lot of his supporters have been calling for his release, but if he keeps denying these charges and there is no new evidence that has been presented to show that, okay, this man is really guilty of terrorism, is it time for the Nigerian state to actually let him go?
One thing is sacrosanct when it comes to justice, and that is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Anytime metal objects that are very tiny got missing, you discover that people will deploy the use of a magnet, the iron that will get this, whatever is missing, and bring it to the fore. So also is the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Any issues that borders on laws, then the Constitution has to adhere to. But going by what you have said, if every effort to bring to the table of all the charges against him has not been looked into well, then they don't have any reason to keep him. But if there are still things lingering for him to prove beyond reasonable doubt that he is involved or not involved, then this.
Are you with me, Mr. Ola Emmanuel? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Mr. Ola, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm talking.
Yes. We lost you there for a minute. Please go ahead.
Okay, fine. I said that if the leaders, if the followers of Nnamdi Kanu are agitating, saying release our man, that shows that they are following him and that he's their leader. But the point that holding him there in custody by the Nigerian state shows that there are certain gray areas that are yet to be highlighted. So if the Nigerian constitutions with regards to terrorism or whatever character has put him in the correctional facility or DSS custody, those things need to be cleared for him. But if the constitution do not have or hold anything against him in that regard, then he should be left alone to go about his normal duty as a Nigerian citizen that has a fundamental right to freely move to anywhere he wants. But until those areas are brought to the fore by reason of the constitutions and the lawyers and justice looking at them critically, then they won't be able to change or reverse the situation. They can be held in custody until otherwise proven.
All right, Mr. Ola Emmanuel, on these charges of terrorism and treason, would you say that the way these charges have been thrown not just at him? I want to cast your mind back to last year where certain minors were actually arraigned on charges of treason. You remember the outburst, the outcry that followed that by Nigerians. You recall, Mr. Ola Emmanuel? You recall that? Would you say that the Nigerian state has been trivializing the crime of terrorism and treason by just slapping it on anyone just like that? Because we have headsmen who have been perpetrating illegalities, evil, criminal acts, and murder, bloodshed in several different areas of the country. It has been much more rampant for the past few days. From Enugu to Benue to Lakurawa in Kebbi State, there are a lot of non-state actors who are armed and actually perpetrating this terrorism who have not been prescribed, like the indigenous people of Biafra have been prescribed, and like their leader has been going through this legal battle for over 3 years now. Would you say that we are trivializing terrorism and treason in Nigeria?
Thank you, Choma. The point here is this. No one single Nigeria can actually tell you he or she understand the position of law when it comes to terrorism, abduction, and the rest of all those criminal acts. But I'm telling you my opinion, I stand to be corrected, that these laws comes to bear when you do not have any connection up there. I tell you this truth, on Sunday in the evening, a brother called me from Oyo State that his farmland was taken over by Fulani, and he went there to confront him, taking them to the station, and the police said there is little or nothing they can do. I'm telling you that the person who is the victim called me by himself to inform me of this. So the issues of either trivializations of this terrorism, whatever, is a thing that we must look back to what the former head of state, General Sani Abacha, said, that any persistence or reoccurrence or incessant issues of crisis that continue over a period of 72 hours or more, that the government of the day is aware of it. So these issues of terrorism, if minors could be charged, then how much more people who came to say that we are behind this act? And that makes me say this thing sometimes ago. We live in a society or in a nation whereby the actor, the person who committed the crime, is allowed to go free, while the person who complained about the crime committed is held in custody. So it's a thing that there is much more for all Nigerians to understand when it comes to these issues of herdsmen, attacker, and then I can tell you, the state of emergency as declared in Rivers State, it shouldn't be the thing. It should be that the Nigeria should be declared as a state of emergency, because virtually every part of Nigeria is hot. That things are happening, killings, raping, all manner of demonized activities taking place. But I'm not seeing anything about it, because these individuals who are supposed to bring this law to bear are not being affected directly somehow. And as such, they didn't see any need for them to declare Nigeria a state of emergency. So as it is like this now, nobody can say it until then, because the law is made by them against the poor. That's my stance.
Mr. Ola Emmanuel, Nnamdi Kanu has repeatedly accused Justice Binta Nyako and other judges and even the Nigerian judiciary of being unfair to him. Now that his case has been referred to another judge after he has pushed and pushed, would you expect that he can get that fairness from the Nigerian judiciary, which he claims he has not gotten up until this point? We know that a lot of Nigerians do not have trust in the judiciary as it is right now. Most of our institutions, a lot of Nigerians believe they've been balkanized, they've been bastardized, they've been bought by the executive and are in the pockets of the executive. Do you expect that Nnamdi Kanu will get fairness from Justice James Omotosho?
The certainty of that can only be in place when the new judge assigned to him look into the matter. That is when we can now ascertain that yes, Justice Nyako was not fair to Nnamdi Kanu. But so far, for now, we will not be able to ascertain that. Yes, there are certain reactions from Nnamdi Kanu saying or pointing to Justice Nyako that this is not how this issue should be handled. But as it is, as I speak to you now, Nnamdi Kanu is not a lawyer, and he has a team of his legal counsel who should be able to prove that beyond reasonable doubt. And they are still working to ensure that that is the case. So let's keep our fingers crossed to see what this new justice will do. If he tells through the part of what Justice Nyako did before, then we can say that he has not been treated unfairly. But if the reverse is the case, then we can truly say that Justice Nyako Binta has not treated Nnamdi Kanu well. On the issues of losing confidence on the judiciary, I have said this before and I'm going to repeat it. See, Choma, as long as there is harmony between the judiciary, the executive, and the parliament of any state, don't expect development positive.
As long as there is harmony, should we be pushing for, would I say, quarrels between the three arms of government? We know there should be separation of powers and checks and balances.
What I mean by that is that ideally, the judiciary is there to resolve differences between the executives and the parliament. But these days now, so that there will be a check and balances, this is not right. Because most of the time, the executive usurp their powers and begin to do what they feel, not what is right. Remember, there is a difference between the ideal and reality. So most of the time, we'll tilt towards the reality, what they want to do, not the ideal things. And that's why I say that we are not civilized in this part of the world. So looking at this romance between the executive and the parliament, there are no argument that this should not be. That according to constitutions, according to the law of the state, certain things should not be. But as long as the parliament and the executive are working together, then don't expect any justice for anything. It means that we continue to do this until when we turn back to where we fail it. And where we fail it is that allowing a square peg in a round hole. That is where the problem is.
Talking about square pegs in round holes, and also on this whole topic of insecurity, terrorism, treason, and all of that, the federal government will soon begin to manufacture military hardware at Ajaokuta Steel. This is according to the Minister of Steel Development, Shaibu Abubakar Audu, who disclosed that the federal government plans to partner with the Ministry of Defense and the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria to produce military hardware for the Nigerian Armed Forces and other security agencies in the country. Now, I don't know if you've seen, there have been several videos of Nigerian military personnel coming out to talk about how their weapons are outdated, how they do not actually have the kind of encouragement and support that they need to actually go after these bandits and terrorists who are terrorizing Nigerians under different guises, under different names, and through different groups. This is Ajaokuta Steel that for the longest time, let's say, has been moribund. And now they're coming out to tell us that this particular organization will soon start producing military hardware for the Nigerian military. Is this a report that you believe, or something that is to happen? For how long will we keep hearing that Nigeria will soon, and start hearing that Nigeria has actually done this or that?
You see, Nigeria is a is a state that, like I said, nobody can understand it all. First and foremost, from 1999, after democracy came to stay, the language we used to hear was that it's on the pipeline. Till we are in the process of it. Until the one will say that we are working on it. Now, if you ask me, I will tell you it is outrightly wrong for such issues to be disclosed. Why we are yet on the thinking, on the deciding factor whether or not that should be. The armory of any nation is the military strength and might of a nation. It is not right for anybody to declare it that beginning from so time we are about doing this. It is military and security wrong for that to be disclosed.
No, I'm even talking about. Okay, go ahead, please.
Even if that is going to be the case, that are working on manufacturing that, it should not be made to the public. Because over time, from 2011 till this moment as I speak, we have instances where the Nigerian army has been outrun by these Boko Harams and their weapons carted away. We've had that countless times. What has been done about it? And secondly, if these persons are a group of individuals, they are sect, they are not a nation fighting against Nigeria. And over time, we've heard this outcry that the kind of weapons they use are more sophisticated to us. Then what is Nigeria do about it? And it will interest you to know too well that oftentimes you hear certain budget being released or made to ensure that armories or weaponries are being bought, procured to ensure that the Nigerian military stand to the test of the challenges we are faced. Now, what happened to those things that we keep hearing that money has been voted? Budget has been made for security and we don't see it. So this shows us that there is a wide gap between what is happening and what we're hearing. So until we return, I will tell you here, I will tell you with all sense of humility that the people in these positions know the exact thing. And that is why some Nigerians will tell you there is nothing like Boko Haram anywhere. There is nothing like Hetman, or if at all there are, like we're seeing, like they call like receipt now, they are being sponsored. They use those things to distract Nigerians from focusing on their deficiencies. So that we will not really challenge them. This is wrong. We are not saying this. Certain things that are supposed to do by the constitution that put them there, they are not doing it. So they come up with issues that will put everybody on attention. At the end of the day, we lose focus on the originality of the assignment there. So it's a wrong thing to do, and it's time to stop.
I think, Mr. Ola, you're focusing more on the fact that they are making it known, or these are the moves we are making in the military. But when was the last time you heard about Ajaokuta Steel actually producing something for the steel industry in Nigeria? Is it going to be revived through the production of military hardware?
The Ajaokuta Steel mill has been dead for decades. And I think about the 7 to 8 assembly made mention about reviving it. But I've not gone to that place in the last 2 years, so I won't be able to know whether they are really into full-blown production. But if they are saying they want to do it, and then let's open our eyes to see it. But I'm afraid there's not going to be anything good come about it. If you ask me, the reason for making such statement is that over the last 15 years, that there has been budget made for the Nigerian refineries. And up to this moment I speak, there is nothing to show for such refineries. Then it tells you that if they tell you that
but quite a number of Nigerian refineries, Port Harcourt Warri came on stream last year, towards the end of last year.
Refinery, the Warri refinery. They have been budget. They've been telling you we are working on it, and in a matter of time, there's going to be coming to full-scale refinery of the PMS and the rest of it like this. Now we don't have them. As of 3 years ago, before President Tinubu came on board, there had been publications that now give us certain months that refinery, the petroleum, whatever, will come to the fore. Have we seen it? Now, Dangote, as an individual person, has been able to start his own from scratch till finish that he started producing. Even as at last 2 weeks, the byproduct has come to the market, the polythene and the rest of them. Whereas we have never seen where the refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery, the Warri refinery, the Kanu refinery has produced any polythene before. And over this period of time, this refinery has been in existence. That shows to you that they show us some things that are not real. So if they say that Ajokuta will be producing firearms, let's wait and see. If it comes to be, it will surprise me that eventually they have realized and have woken up from their sleep that we need to do the right thing.
Mr. Ala Emmanuel, let's quickly talk about River State for about 1 or 2 minutes so that we can go. The River State electorate have dragged President Tinubu, Senate President Akpabio, and others, the National Assembly, the Attorney General of the Federation, to court over what they have called the illegal state of emergency rule in River State. You recall that as it is right now, Governor Fubara is not in the government house. The sole administrator has taken over. The funds which the Supreme Court told the CBN to seize until Governor Fubara represent the budget to the pro-Wike House of Assembly lawmakers has now been released. Allocations of up to 400 billion have now been released to the sole administrator, who can actually do whatever he wants to do with those funds without any checks and balances. Do you expect that anything will come out of this court case? Because the Attorney General of Federation more or less defended what the president did and placed all the blame at Governor Fubara's doorstep, just the same way that the president did. Nobody is calling Wike's name in all of this. Now that the River State electorate have gone to court, are you expecting anything to come out of this based on what you have established to be that Nigerians do not have trust in the judiciary?
Well, if you ask me, I will say it is status quo, remains the same. I'm not expecting anything. The reason is because the Nigerian constitution did not authorize the president of Nigeria to remove the governor or the state assembly. It is not part of his powers to do that. He can declare a state of emergency, but the removal of the governor, his deputies, and the whatever is something that the state assembly, the House of Assembly, and the Senate will meet and look into the matter. Then before that can be determined. But declaring the state of assembly and putting whosoever he wants without even consulting the parliament, the Senate, and the lower house in the first place is an abuse of power. It's a thing to show too well that he has not done the needful. Now, as of 3 days ago, I think they said the State House of the National House of Senate and the House of Representatives has given approval to the state.
Yes, just yesterday, the National Assembly and the Senate did give their approval through a voice vote. And they were actually supposed to check if they have the 2 over 3 lawmakers in the House who they should actually have before that happens. But it was put to a voice vote. And a lot of Nigerians have been speaking against that this is not the way to do things.
Show you that the right thing is not being done. So you don't expect anything good. Remember, the head of the sole administrator is not accountable to anybody again.
Except the president.
Whoever placed him there, want him to do is what he will be delivering on. So I'm not expecting any positive change. I'm not expecting. This is to tell you, like I said, that until we return back, you cannot put an individual of your person or of your interest into a position that there are certain rules of law that has been jumped off. It is not the right thing to do. The Nigerian Constitution of the 1999 as amended, Section 118 and Section 188 and 189 of the Nigerian Constitution also say that it's an abuse of power for the president to remove the governor. So that is not the right thing to be done.
But
so
the Attorney General of the Federation actually supported the actions of the president.
If they support, it means that is a stooge. Somebody who has been programmed, projected, wired, conducted to say whatever it is. And that's the reason why you can see this kind of case happening where a professor in a university has been made to declare the false result. Now it has landed him in a court. It has landed him in. So which shows that putting a sole administrator who has not passed through the whatever to handle over 400 billion or whatever, it shows that that person that put there has just been asked, come and eat from what I've provided for you. So what I tell you to do is what you will do. So I'm not expecting anything. Because if you check all these things that are happening now, those who stand on the side of the law are revolting against the thing they're happening. But the question is that why is it that this person standing against the law has not prevailed? Because the law of the state is being used to mute the mouth of those who are standing in for justice, equity, and fairness.
Quite unfortunate, Mr. Lai Manuel. But just before you go, the court has granted a bail to a professor who was jailed for rigging elections for an APC candidate in the 2019 election. They've granted him bail. But why this is coming up is because I want you to cast your mind back to the Adamawa State Resident Electoral Commissioner in the 2023 elections, who unilaterally declared Aisha Dahiru Binani as the winner of that election while the counting of votes were still going on. We know he has legal battles, but I mean, in all of this, would we say he has not been prosecuted because he's not serving any jail time for that act?
If you remember, in October last year, I was on the radio and I told us until the INEC is refurbished, because INEC is not independent in true term. So if the person who declared that result, is it in Jigawa, am I correct? If he declares it, why
in Adamawa State?
It's an Adama, thank you very much. In Adama, if the INEC, the resident elect, now declare why counting is ongoing and the case is silent, then you will know too well that these people are playing on us. So for this case that in Akwa Ibom, where this person has been granted bail, good and fine. Perhaps it means that
Rufai, Babachir Lawal, Rotimi Amechi, and others. Yes, that later they will be coming out very soon to let Nigerians know the name of this party and who will be their flag bearers. What do you expect of this coalition? Is this what Nigerians need to phase out the APC come 2027?
The struggle for power remains constant. The struggle to unseat any political party that is leading the nation remains the same, because if people are not comfortable with the administrations of a particular political party, then people will begin to cry for a change. So if Atiku Abubakar is saying there is a coalition to unseat that, let them go ahead. Nobody should stop. I think the Nigerian Constitution allows for that. So if that is what they feel they can do to stop this injustice, insecurity, lack of economic power, poverty-driven administration, if that is what they want to do to ensure they achieve them coming into the position of the president to lead Nigeria to the promised land, why not? But for me, making this announcement now is too early. They should do their things on the ground without bringing it to the media.
But don't you think they need to start positioning ahead of 2027?
If they make that position, did you think that the APC-led government will fold their hands? They will use this name mentioned now. The APC government will make use of certain individuals and mercenaries to ensure that the center of the new coalition does not hold. So that's the reason they shouldn't have been making these things public. They can be doing underground work. Because did you think that the APC will fold their hands and allow anybody on seat them? When they have the power of the state, when they have the judiciary, when they have everything to contend with anybody that dares to unseat them. So making the announcement at this time is too early. and I completely do not accept by that. If I am part of them, there wouldn't be any need for press conference. Let's keep doing our thing on the background. Then when the time comes, the announcement will be, it will shock every one of them, because before it will get to that time, now they must have touched all gray areas and ensure there is no loophole. But if you say it now and call names of persons, they know, now you know, Rita, you know that you are closer to me. You can reach out to me directly. Yeah, one other person. So if they know that you are closer to me, they can use you against me. I'm using it as an example. So calling the names of particular persons and individuals that are working together to form a coalition now is completely not matured for me, if you ask my
Thank you so much, Mr. Ola Emmanuel. Our time is fast spent and we need to go. But I must thank you for always joining me whenever we call on you. Do have an amazing day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. You have been listening to the World News at 12 right here on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. Just before we wrap up, let's take a look at the top stories again. You heard that Nnamdi Kanu has tendered apology to judges and pleads not guilty to terrorism charges. Supreme Court declares Anyanwu authentic PDP National Secretary. Rivers State Electorate drag President Tinubu, Senate President Akpabio and others to court over illegal state of emergency rule. And Sudan Army recaptures presidential palace from rebel forces. That is a wrap on the World News at 12. My name is Chioma Innocent. Please follow our social media handles at VOP 903 FM. For coverage of your live event and brand news mentioned in our news bulletins, do send a mail to news@voiceofthepeople.ng. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.